Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Last Life Ever podcast. I'm Jillian and Jeff. That is Jeffrey Hulse. Today, we are going to be talking about goal setting for 2021, which, you maybe made some goals for 2020. Maybe those goals.
Hey, I personally made goals in 2020 and accomplished some of them.
That's awesome. All right.
That is awesome. So we're going to do that when, Jillian?
Right after this.
Help me, my brother, can you lend me a hand as I walk through this land of confusion? If we give to each other, then there's nothing to take. Let's live life for the moment before it slips away.
Did you still stay muted this time, or are you good?
I did good. So listen, today we don't have a guest. It's just Jeff and I talking to you about goal setting. I feel like we can talk about this because I've read a ton of books on goal setting throughout my life. Jeff and I both went to law school, which is a goal in and of itself, going to law school, studying for the LSAT, studying doing well in college and setting goals all the way through college, then, doing well or halfway decent in law school, and then getting out and taking the bar exam. And that all involves goal setting. And then I got out of law school and I started a business, and so did Jeff. We both started law firms, and we've also started multiple other businesses. So we feel like in a lot of ways, we're a little bit of an expert here or there on,
and that's just the goal. Those are just the goals that I've accomplished. I've actually set way more goals than that. I'm even more accomplished at failing at my goals. And I think people will understand that in a lot of cases, that's part of goal setting, is that they're hard and they're challenging. And if it's easy, then you're probably not doing it right.
I couldn't agree more. And I'm wearing a fuzzy sweater today because it's cold and rainy in Southern California. So I hope you guys enjoy my fuzzy sweater. But if you don't, and you're listening to this on a podcast, well, I'm wearing a white fuzzy sweater. So I don't know why I mentioned that.
As long as we're talking about our clothing, I'm wearing headphones, and my headphones, look, check this out. See this? There's an American flag on there?
Yeah.
It's because I broke my headphones and taped them together with an American flag sticker.
Yeah. Is your goal to get new headphones?
Yeah, that's not really a goal. That's more like just pushing a couple of buttons on Amazon. But my goal is actually for, Jillian and Jeff to feel sorry for me for having broken headphones and send me some.
Anyhow, today we're going to be using Michael Hyatt's Your Best Year Ever, a 5-step plan for achieving your most important goals. This is the premise that we used to come up with today's content and today's goal setting. There's a couple of different ways that you can set goals. And Jeff and I we've done SMART goals. We've done, read tons of habit books. And we thought that this was the most succinct, easy plan to follow, or to at least review first. So we're going to review Your Best Year Ever. And actually, we're really just going to review one chapter in the book and talk about how to actually set goals, because we can't go through the whole book.
Yeah, but it's a great book. I mean, I recently read it. I came across it because someone, suggested it to me. And it's a really great book. So people should go out and get it. And we've helpfully put a link to that in the comments to wherever you are watching or listening to this video. So you can just jump on there and go straight over and buy it. It's only, I don't know, it's not expensive.
No,
it's not expensive.
And this will keep you focused, right? Jeff and I could start throwing tons of books out at you and what you could read and what you could do and what planners you could buy. And the thing is, all of them could be useful in their own regard for you, but you really just got to stay focused. Stay focused, use one plan. This is the plan we're suggesting right now. And I'll tell you, for my sake, I've been struggling with creating goals. This year was not an amazing year. Like most people, I did not have this amazing year. I felt a little defeated at times and didn't really know how to get back up on the horse. And I will say that this book has just kind of helped me in a very simple way refocus what I already knew, but has reminded me, why goals are important and how to make those goals. So let's get into it. So
before we do that, let me make one thing. That's actually a big part of the early part of the book, right? I don't know if everyone's going to read it, so I want to bring this up. One of the things that he talks about early in the book, not the chapter that we're really focusing on, which is setting goals, is that it's important to look back at the past and learn from the things that you accomplished and from the things you didn't. In fact, he has these great quotes about regret where he says that if you live a life without regret, then you're not making progress, because you're not looking back. And I was like, that's so smart. Because I like to be like, oh, I don't have regrets. But the reality is, if you didn't have any regrets at all, then that means that you think you did everything exactly right. And then there's nothing to work towards. And I mean, I never looked at it that way, but I was like, that's really, really smart. But the other thing is too, to recognize and embrace the things that you did accomplish. You just said, oh, this year was really hard. I didn't do that much, but it's not really true. You started a podcast. You got rid of your law firm. Right? You published a book, raised a bunch of money for charity.
I did do that.
Right? These are not insignificant things. The problem is that sometimes it's easy to think about the things we didn't accomplish and not focus on the things we did. So really the first step in goal setting, even before you write the goals, is to reflect on the past and say, what could I have done better? And what did I do well? And what should I embrace? And what can I be grateful for? So anyway, I wanted to preface with that before we got into the S.M.A.R.T.E.R goals, which is a variation of SMART goals, which a lot of people are familiar with.
Yeah. So you guys have all heard of SMART goals. There's a ton of information. As a matter of fact, it was funny. I didn't know that SMART goals originated, and he says this in the book, like at GM in 1985 or something like that. Did you know that?
Yeah, no, I didn't know that until I read it. And I thought that was really interesting. I mean, I knew they had to originate somewhere, but I didn't know that. I would have thought they were much newer than that, because I didn't hear about them until the last few years.
Yeah. So no, right. So the SMART goals are basically specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-based. But Michael Hyatt, in Your Best Year Ever book, he suggests not necessarily doing SMART goals. He augments this a little bit into smarter goals. And so it's similar, but different. So let's talk about it. So what's similar? The first thing is, Jeffrey?
Specific. And of course, this is exactly what it sounds like. What Michael Hyatt and what SMART goals in general are saying is that if your goal is not specific enough, it's impossible to know what you're trying to attain. So what you want to do is you want to think about making it specific enough that you actually know what it is, right? And I know it's sort of redundant, but that's really the trick. It's just got to mean something.
Well, for example, saying like, I want to be healthy this year. Well, what's that really mean? Does it mean you want to drink more water? Does it mean you want to work out more? Does it mean you want to lose weight? And then you have to think about how you're going to accomplish those things. It's, I could say, I want to be a supermodel.
Well, that might not be realistic, which is one of the SMART goals, part of the acronym. So, I mean, you know what, Jillian, to me, you will always be a supermodel.
Ah, you're so kind. So anyhow, so specific and then measurable. How are you going to measure your progress?
And this is related to specificity, right? Yeah. So like if you want to drink more water, for example, that's specific, right? But making it measurable would be, I'm going to drink 64 ounces of water every day.
And I'm going to accomplish that by getting a water bottle that holds 25 ounces and making sure I drink 3 of them throughout the day. And I'll set 3 alarms throughout the day to remind myself to finish my bottle of water.
Right, exactly. But again, it has to be measurable. So you have to be able to say with certainty whether you've accomplished it or not. And there are really two different kinds of goals when you're thinking about measurable. There's habit goals like water, running every day, writing every day, whatever it might be. And then there's more concrete goals, right? That are things like, I'm going to finish a book by a certain date. Like I'm going to read Michael Hyatt's Your Best Year Ever, and I'm going to do it by January 15th. That's a discrete goal that once you've accomplished it, you're just done with it.
And then you want to develop habits around that goal. But let's get into this, because there's some really exciting things, because you just talked about reading a book and like, well, okay, reading a book by January 15th. What am I going to do for the rest of the year? We're going to get into that. Don't worry about it. Because we want your smarter goals to also stretch a little bit. So a SMART goal is, like we said, specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-based. Very practical. But all of the research shows, not just in Michael Hyatt's book, but also in the Charles Duhigg series of books. And I don't want to distract you with those books, but in those books, he also talks about stretch goals. That's why this SMART-E.R goals method is so great, because it combines SMART goals with stretch goals. Let's get into what that means. Actionable. So the A is actionable. What does that mean, Jeffrey?
Well, it means that there's something specific you can do to work towards that goal. So you have to be able to know what the next step is. You don't necessarily, he talks about this in length in later chapters of the book. You don't necessarily have to know exactly how to attain the goal. In fact, he even says you shouldn't know how to attain the goal, or your goal's not big enough. Because if you know how to do it, then it's not really a goal. You already do it or don't do it, right? Yeah. So if you want to have really good big goals, they have to be actionable, which means you have to at least know what the first step is, or the first couple of steps, and so that you can go out and start working towards them. And we all know these things, right? Well, you look at that. You went to the next one on me.
I know. I'm sorry.
But we all know these things. What I was going to say is, if you want to lose weight, for example, just saying, I want to lose 100 pounds, that sounds great. If you're 100 pounds overweight, if you're Jillian, you would die. So don't do that. But if you want to lose 100 pounds, then, you still have to have an actionable plan, right? So what are you going to do? You're going to start by drinking more water, getting better sleep, working out more, whatever it might be.
Right, exactly. And then your goals should be risky. And this was really, really interesting because it's different, right? It's different than what SMART goals are. So SMART goals either say relevant in some categories. Sometimes you see realistic as they are in SMART goals, but nowhere have I ever seen risky, right? Mm-hmm. What Michael Hyatt said is, he said, if it's not risky, then it's not a good enough goal. It's not going to inspire you. It's not going to motivate you to do big things. And he talked about how all of the big accomplishments that ever occur for anyone are always when they take risk. Mm-hmm. And he's saying, look, they have to be relevant. They have to be realistic to some degree, but they also have to be risky. Saying I want to be a supermodel, probably not going to happen, right? But saying that you want to, become, someone who speaks from the stage and people look up to, that can happen, right? So you can, that might be risky to change careers, to, burn the ships, as you will, right? But you can do those things. And he talks about that. He talks about, burning the ships. He talks about how if you, the example he used was like some gentleman in the book was very dissatisfied with his job. And, the reaction, the normal reaction to that is try to figure out how you can make the job better. And he basically said, no, don't try to make the job better. Literally, like, do something that makes it so it's really hard to like turn back. Like, right. And so the guy, he was like, the guy ended up, what did he end up doing? He ended up going off full-time work and setting a goal of like, I'm going to have my stuff together at this point in time.
It was actually crazy. He went into his boss's office and said, I don't want to be paid anymore. I don't want my salary anymore. Right. So that he was forced to he didn't quit. He's like, I just don't want to be paid a salary. I only want commissions or whatever from now on, so that it would force him to be motivated. And he also talks about that. He says, like, not everyone needs to do that, but if you're running a small business and you grew 5% every year for the last 5 years, and you make your goal to grow 6% this year instead of 5%, that's not risky and it's not going to motivate you. But on the other hand, if you say my goal is to grow 30% this year, that's risky. And it's also something that's going to motivate you to go out and do big things. And that really is the point of goals. Like, I could make a goal to wake up tomorrow morning, and hopefully I will wake up tomorrow morning, and I would be successful at that goal in that scenario. But that's not going to motivate me to do something I wouldn't otherwise do.
Right. And he actually points to some research where by Edwin Locke and Gary Latham that says there is a linear relationship between the degree of goal difficulty and performance. So like the more difficult the goal, like the more likely you are to perform. Like, you might not reach the goal because it's so difficult, but you will at least achieve more getting to that goal. The other thing is too, this is the turning point. This is the place where SMART goals meet stretch goals together, all in one package. So this is where it changes right here, guys. So the next one.
Wait, actually, there's one other thing on that too, right? On there's this amazing quote that he uses in the book from Jack Welch. I don't know if you caught that or not, Jillian, but Jack Welch said, and of course, Jack Welch is the former CEO of General Electric. He said that if you, and I'm paraphrasing obviously, but essentially, if you shoot for the moon, you might not make it, but you're gonna. I wish I had the quote in front of me. I'm so unprepared. I stopped you and made you go back, and then I didn't even have the quote. But basically, the quote was that if you don't make if you inevitably don't make wherever it is, this stretch goal, this risky goal, you're still going to be much better off than if you hadn't pursued it in the first place. So you decide you want to run a marathon in 3 hours, and you've never done one in under 5. Well, you did it in 3 hours and 30 minutes. You didn't make it, but that's okay.
I don't want to sound like I'm checking my email while I'm on here, but literally while you were talking, I got an email from Michael Hyatt himself. I'm sure he sent it to me personally.
Personally, yeah.
Because it does say, "Hey, Jillian."
I got that email myself, except for it said, "Hey, Jeff."
Hey, Jillian, Wednesday we kick off Your Best Year Ever Live. Thousands of goal setters will join us as we create our goals for 2021 and set a plan to make reaching those goals a reality. And to make it easier for you to join us, we've reopened our launch week pricing, which means you can be in the room for $100 off regular price. So he's having an event. If you guys want to join that, you can go find that. We don't get any affiliate payments for that.
We do not. So but you should do it anyway. No, I found the quote while you were reading your email. I decided to look up the quote. It was, "By reaching for what appears to be impossible, we often do the impossible. And even if we don't quite make it, we inevitably end up much better than we would have been."
Yeah, exactly.
See, I knew it was a good quote, and I was butchering it. So I'm so glad I found it.
Okay, so the next one is time keyed, which is different than the SMART. It's slightly different than the SMART goals, and it's
right because SMART goals is timed, right?
Yeah.
This is time keyed.
Right. Meaning that you don't necessarily have to have a deadline, although deadlines are good. Deadline's one way you can time key it. But also you start developing a habit. Like, so for example, Jeff, I'm going to take your goal. Well, both of our goals, we have the same goal, right? The goal is to run the Kauai half marathon. And we have different levels of expectation in that goal and how we're going to achieve it. But like, if we want to achieve that goal, we have to have a plan. So I know the deadline is going to be September, because
September 5th is going to be the deadline. That's when we're going to do it.
When the Kauai half marathon is. But there's time. I can't start training for it on September 1st and expect good results. So what you want to do is time key it and saying that every day, every other day for the next 9 months, I'm going to run at 6 a.m. in the morning for
Yeah, I thought
every
that was really good, right? Like Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 6 a.m. I'm gonna run
right
for a half hour or
now.
whatever. You can set whatever kind of goal you want. You can ramp it up over time. But I like the fact that he also says, well, so that's a discrete goal, right? You want to run the half marathon, but then he says, like, well, what if you want to build a habit? And he talks about habits. It's interesting. Most people say it takes 21 days to accomplish a habit. I might not be in the chapter we're talking about, but he talks about studies that show that in reality, it can take up to 6 to 9 months to establish a habit. Not 21 days. And he said, apparently there's not really good science around that. But what's really interesting about it is he still wants you to time key habits. So he'll say, like, for example, if you just want to be a person who walks for 30 minutes every day, which is something I've been doing for the last 40 days or so, you should walk for 30 minutes every day, but you should say, I'm going to walk every day for the next 75 days, right? So that you have this like discrete, like, so you can build the habit by actually putting a goal out there that's realistic and keyed to time.
Yep. Yeah. And it's, and another thing he talks about, and we'll get to this, you should have it on a quarterly basis. Okay. The next one, it's got to be exciting.
Right. And this is a good one because this is kind of back to risky, right? The risk, the making it big, the big goals are going to be more exciting, but it also has to be in line with your own purpose, right? I mean, it has to fit what it is that you're really wanting to do, because that's what's going to excite you. Because you know what? It's not exciting if you don't emotionally involve yourself in the end result of whatever that goal is. Like for me, I'm excited about the half marathon because I just want it over with. That's not really true. I'm actually getting myself excited. I've been wrapping my head around this for the last couple of months, and I've been doing the walking as a way to sort of get in it. And actually, quick editorial side note, Veronica posted in our group recently about doing a couch to 5K, and I've decided to incorporate that into my personal goals. I've been walking for a while, and I looked up the couch to 5K. It's a 9-week program to be able to run 5K, and I'm going to do that starting, I haven't picked the date, but around January 10th, I'm going to start a couch to 5K to get myself ready for moving towards that. And that's time keying, and it's exciting because I'll be honest with you, I think there's going to be a lot of positive benefits from doing all this running and working out. I'm going to be healthier. So? I'm going to feel better. I might even lose a couple pounds.
Yeah.
And then I can be a supermodel, I think.
Okay. Well, all right. So then they also have to be relevant to your life, your goals as, a young person, as a, 20 something are going to be vastly different than the goals of a 50-year-old. Your priorities are just going to be different. Your priorities are going to be different if you have kids or if you don't have kids. Your priorities, you're going to, it's just as life changes, your goals are going to change. So if you don't feel bad if your goals aren't the same goals that you had last year. My goals are not the same this year as they were last year. Not even kind of close.
And you know what the thing is? That's some of my goals are the same and some of them are different, right? One goal I had last year was to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. I'm definitely not doing that next year. Like if you bought me a ticket to Tanzania tomorrow and said all you have to do is climb Kilimanjaro, I'd probably turn you down, because also we're in a pandemic, but even if we weren't in a pandemic, because I just don't want to do it again. I did it once. That was it. That was my goal for last year. But there are other goals like growing Last Life Ever, right? Continuing to work on the podcast and expand our audience. That's a goal I had last year. And I still have now. So, there's overlap. But the other thing about this relevant thing, which I think is really, really important, is that it's okay if your goals change. I've been working with Dr. Jamil, who was a former guest on our show, and Jamil told me that when we were talking about goal setting last week, he told me that that for him, he uses a letter, right? He writes a letter to himself every year. And at the at the end of each year, he writes a letter that's post-dated for a year in the future. And then it's written like, this was a great year, and here's all the stuff I accomplished, right? So it's like manifesting where you want to end up after the year. He said, look, for him, halfway through the year, he crossed a section of his letter out because he realized it wasn't important to him anymore. So it wasn't an issue anymore. Treat it like a living document. And that's how you have to look at your goals too, because I think it's really easy to get lost in, I have a goal to do X, Y, and Z. And then you start trying to do the goal just because you made it a goal and you no longer care. Well, that's not a good use of your time. You're not going to be excited about it, and you're probably not going to accomplish it anyway. But if you do accomplish it, it's going to be a whole victory because it's not really where you want to be anyway. So that's why relevance is super important.
Yes. And I couldn't agree more. And finally, one thing I was asking myself while I was reading the book was like, because as I'm going through the S.M.A.R.T.E.R, okay, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to do this, I want to do that. I can't do all these things. Can I do all these things? I don't know. Should I do all these things? What should I write down? I don't know what to write down. And I started getting very kind of panicked about like, what are really my goals? And again, differentiating goals from habits and knowing that they have a relationship, but they're not the same, right? So he answered, it was almost like Michael Hyatt himself was reading my mind, because he tells me, do not have more than 7 to 10 goals per year. But he also says, don't have less than 7, because this is kind of like a magic number. Now, I don't know if it's in science or what have you, or just based on what his research has shown him or based on what he's observed.
Well,
but yeah, have 7 to 10 goals is what you should be looking at every year.
Right. I think his argument was, if you have less than 7, you're probably not trying to make, I mean, you're trying, the point of the book is to have your best year ever, right? The best year, right? Well, if you had one goal and you accomplished it, it's probably not going to be your most successful year. So there has to be a certain minimum just to make that work. But then on the flip side, if you try to have like 50 goals, right? And I run this risk myself. Like, here's my list of goals, Jillian. I don't know if you can read those really fast like that. That's just the first page. Then there's more pages, right? See that?
Wow.
Yeah. So 2.5 pages, fine print, right? But I mean, I'm writing these goals out, and then I'm prioritizing and deciding which ones I actually want to work on. These are just sort of like brainstorm goals. This is like a really big process for me this year, because I'm really trying to adopt S.M.A.R.T.E.R goals, and I'm trying to, make sure that I accomplish the goals, because I talked about this in one of our lives, but I read this really disturbing statistic about New Year's resolutions, right? Apparently, something like 80% of people in their early 20s set New Year's resolutions, and only 20% of people in their 60s set New Year's resolutions.
Yeah.
And the discussion was essentially, and I think this was actually earlier in his book, in like chapter 1 or something like that, when he's talking about setting goals. It's basically that like life just sort of, as you sort of build up this habit of failure over time, right? If you set a resolution and you don't accomplish it, and then you set a resolution, you don't accomplish it, you start to believe it's pointless, and you just kind of stop doing it. So I think, and that's where it's really important to reflect back. And that's why I was, harassing you a little bit at the beginning about the things that you did accomplish this year, because, yes, like we talked about this in the opening to the Coronavirus Collective, or at least you did when you wrote about it, about all the stuff you wanted to do. And then all you did is watch Tiger King by Jason. And, but the point is, like, you also wrote an article for the Coronavirus Collective and went through and helped compile the whole book and all that stuff. So it's important to embrace the things that you did accomplish, even if you didn't plan on writing a book in response to a global pandemic at the beginning of the year.
Yeah. So the other thing that I was questioning while I was reading this book and thinking about my own goals is 7 to 10 goals per year. And the one thing he was saying is, like, you don't want your deadlines to be too far out, but you also don't want to have unreasonable expectations on yourself. So, like, it's not reasonable to say, I'm going to run a half marathon next week if you haven't been doing any half marathon training. By the way, I'm just using that as an example. Just like if you were starting law school, it wouldn't be reasonable to say, I'm going to finish law school by next semester. It doesn't happen that way. It takes 3 years to get through law school. So I'm just giving like wild examples, but
I did it in 2.5 years, for what it's worth.
Okay. So what you can do is
That's a
you
true
can
story.
set to 2, no one cares. You can set 2 to 3 deadlines per quarter. So for example, and I'll get the law school one out of it because I don't think that's relevant to 99% of this audience, probably 100% of the audience. But let's take the half marathon one, for example. By the end of this quarter, you hope to be running 5 miles consistently without stopping.
Mine's actually a 5K. That's the end of the quarter goal, right? That's
Perfect.
the Couch to 5K.
But that's a measurable goal
Yep.
at the end of a quarter. And so each quarter you have some kind of deadline, 2 to 3 deadlines for your 7 to 10 goals. So obviously you're not necessarily reaching some deadline for all 10 of your goals. You're only doing that for 2 to 3 of them in the hopes, because some of these goals, these 7 to 10 goals per year might be, a 5-year or 3-year plan, whatever it
Right. Well, and the other thing is too, he specifically says you don't want all of your goals ending December 31st, right? You don't want to do, okay, I want to accomplish writing 3 books, becoming a rock star, and selling out, and writing a movie script between now and December 31st. It's just not realistic, because if your deadlines are too far ahead, it causes you not to focus, right? So he points out this research that says when a deadline's close, people are more focused on it. So that's why you want to have multiple deadlines. If you want to write a book, your deadline could be something like, I want to write 500 words every day, and I want to finish the book by the end of the first quarter, whatever it is.
And the other thing is too, if you're going to do that, then what else do you have to do? You have to have it time keyed and start, because you could say I'm going to do 500 words every day. I mean, I do this myself. I've been a horrible, habit maker myself, because I didn't set a time and a place for me to do certain things. So for example, when you and I were walking every day, Jeff, and we had a very specific time that we went every morning, it was more habitual. It happened more consistently because we had that specific time. What happened is the weather got bad and Jillian got lazy and she didn't want to go out in the cold because I fear cold.
Right, which is why you're wearing a fuzzy sweater today.
I'm wearing a fuzzy sweater.
Yes.
So,
see, I knew there was a reason you brought that up at the beginning of the show.
So I just think it looks kind of ridiculous. But
it looks just fine. Maybe not quite up to your supermodel status.
So anyhow, but I do want to say, yes, Veronica. Veronica has put a comment up here. Jeff, if I have doctor's clearance, I will join you. She's going to do the half marathon, I'm assuming, with us. Otherwise,
she's talking about the Couch to 5K, actually.
Yeah, you should.
Because she just recently had surgery and she's talking about the Couch to 5K. And by the way, Veronica, if you tell me when your doctor's clearance is before the end of the year, I can adjust my start date to fit with you. So you might want to think about that, because I would like to have someone do it with me, because accountability, like Jillian was just saying about our walks, super useful. Because that's actually another point, like in a subsequent chapter that he gets to, is the importance of surrounding yourself with like-minded people. In fact, he says you should find Facebook groups that are motivating to you. And I happen to know of the exact Facebook group he was referring to, and it was clearly Last Life Ever.
Yes. So if you don't belong to our Last Life Ever Facebook group, please join us, because we're all going to be helping each other keep accountable. And we're not going to talk about Die Hard. And you know what that means. If you're in the Facebook group, there's way too many discussions about the movie Die Hard, and I'm stopping it right now.
And that's why you brought it up.
Now it's just going to happen constantly. I know. I just made it worse for myself. But I also want to say that you want an accountability partner, and I'm going to make us accountable to our group right now, Jeff, because Jeff and I made a commitment to each other before we started this little podcast, live, whatever you want to call it. And that was that we were going to start doing master classes. We have a subscription agreement, We have a subscription with the website masterclass.com. If you don't know about Masterclass, you can go on and you can take like these classes from like these famous people who've done amazing things. And so Jeff and I have committed to taking one of those master classes together and then doing the homework together. And so now all of you can hold Jeff and I accountable because we still haven't determined a time that we're going to do it.
It's true. And actually, I think, Jillian, we have room for 1 or 2 lucky people to join us in that. So,
oh, that'd be super fun.
So if somebody's interested in doing a masterclass with Jeff and Jillian, you know, maybe you can reach out. It might happen. We'll give you the details about what we're looking to do and stuff like that.
You please. Yeah. So definitely just write your stuff in the comments, or you can private message Jeff or I, or you can private message Last Life Ever. One of us will get it.
Yeah. And I do want to talk about, I mean, I don't know what you were going to say next, Jillian, so I apologize for interrupting, but I do want to talk about something else that you and I have committed to do, and that is another Kind Morning Challenge. Now, regular viewers and group members will know that this summer, Jillian and I did a Kind Morning Challenge. And just a reminder, Jillian, Kind Morning is K for random acts of kindness. So you do a random act of kindness every day. I and N for I is for invest in yourself, right? 40 minutes a day of investing in yourself. N and D is for no distractions, or in my case, no drinking. That's what I picked. And that's what I'm going to do again. And then morning is just establish a morning routine. And I know what my morning routine is going to be, Jillian. It's going to be to walk with you. I'm making you make that your morning routine. So my Kind Morning will be starting on whatever Sunday is. Is that January 3? January 3, yep. Sunday, January 3rd. I'm starting a new Kind Morning. Jillian's going to join me. I haven't decided how I'm going to invest in myself. Last time it was writing fiction. I think I'm going to pick something else this time. But I'm definitely going to do my random acts of kindness, and I'm not going to drink for 40 days. And I'm also going to walk every day for 40 days. It's part of my goals.
I think I'm going to join you in the not drinking. January 3rd is the day after my birthday. So
I know, that's why I picked it.
Oh, okay. So perfect. So we'll start January 3rd. We'll all be together. I think, though, I'm not going to just pick no drinking. I also am going to stop watching television. I've been watching a lot of junk TV lately. Want to stop doing that. It's a habit I'm not exactly like super excited about. So I'm going to try to fill that time with reading with my children. And I am also going to say I'm going to fill that time with playing video games with my children. And you may think like, well, you're just trading one bad habit for another. But when I'm watching TV, I'm not interacting with my kids. I'm just sitting there. With the video games, it's an opportunity for me to interact with my kids while doing something that they truly, truly enjoy doing. So that's why I'm picking.
No, I think that's great. That's great. So I'm not going to give up TV because I don't watch that much TV, and that'd be a silly thing for me to give up. But I am going to give up drinking for the 40 days. And I'm also going to figure out something else to give up now. I don't know what it's going to be now. I have to think of something else to give up, because I can't let you one up me and give up 2 things at the same time. Plus I'm doing it also.
It's not about one upping. Oh, you're so silly. Yeah.
I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to give up not watching TV. I'm going to watch all the TV that you don't watch. So whenever you feel like watching TV, you just send me a message and I'll watch it for you.
Okay. Sure.
No, but anyway, we would love it if people would join us for a Kind Morning 40, starting on January 3rd. We will post about it in the group. We'll post about it everywhere. We'll do meditation videos because we have those on our YouTube channel, right?
Yeah, I love doing those meditation videos too.
We'll do the meditation. Yeah, so that's going to be my. So actually, I'm gonna tell some people, the world, if you will, a couple of the goals that I've narrowed down. So one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that I work on praying more regularly. So I'm going to do that. So part of my morning routine is going to be to build that habit of praying every morning. And then I'm going to do the meditation video, and I'm going to do my walk. That's going to be kind of my morning routine, is pray, meditate, exercise.
That's awesome. I
pray,
love
meditate,
that.
Exercise. That's going to be the morning routine for me. And, the kind morning stuff, the kindness stuff, that one got really challenging this last time because of the pandemic. But I'm just going to, figure it out. Just try to be kind every day. Figure it out. It doesn't have to be money. It doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be anything specific. It can be just holding the door for someone. It just got to do something that you wouldn't do. Make a choice to do something that you don't expect something in return. That's the key to random acts of kindness. And actually, we did a really good video on this several months ago, and it's on our YouTube channel. It's called Random Acts of Kindness, or 7 Random Acts of Kindness, or something like that.
Yeah, so we have a bunch of different ideas for you guys, and we'll come up with some more as we go through the challenge. But we're going to start on join us. I'm putting a little banner up now. Join us on January 3rd for our next Kind Morning Challenge. See?
Oh, Jillian, there is one other thing that we should point out too. If people want a little bit of help with their goals, I think that Michael Hyatt's goal planner is actually really good for this stuff.
The full focus planner?
The full focus planner, yeah. I think it's really good for this. It keeps you on track. The Kind Morning is really good at it's really, really good at focusing you for a period of time, because you make a commitment to do this thing for 40 days. But the planner is really good because it's broken down into discrete actions that you can set goals for yourself. And it really fits well with the S.M.A.R.T.E.R goals routine. So people should definitely look at that. And I did actually put a comment on all the places where this is, where you can click a link directly to that as well.
Before we go, I just want to bring up Andrea's goal. She has a goal to run 40 miles per month and run the Ragnar Trail in Michigan in June with the team. Andrea, I will tell you, I've run Ragnar twice, both times in Hawaii. Both races themselves were absolutely like miserable circumstances, like really hot or really rainy and cold and wet. Like it was like these two extremes, both of the different races, but it was such an awesome experience. Like you just bond with people. So I wish you all the best on that particular goal. I think that's a wonderful goal. The Ragnar races are great, and the trail races are even better because you're in nature, and it's just fantastic.
And I will say this too, by the way, Andrea, if you want to be really inspired about running, you should check out the interview we did with Ita, which if you ask me, I'll send you a direct link to it, because you know how to get a hold of me. But anyway, the Ida one is amazing. So Ida, she sold her business at 49 and decided that she wanted to start running at 50 years old. And now like 53 or something, or 54, like something not very much older than when she started running, she runs like 400-kilometer races, like across, and in crazy places too. Like one was like across Chad, like the country of Chad, and like all these different places all over the world. Like she ran one that was started at the north rim of the Grand Canyon and ran to the south rim of the Grand Canyon. Remember that one?
It's very inspiring.
Crazy, inspiring stuff. And it'll make you really realize that you can do a lot more than you think. So
it's very inspiring, but not just Ida. It's Ida Emanuel Marzota, and not just her, but also John Rankin, who is and was an Olympic marathoner. And runs is it the Just One Challenge?
Yeah, so his group is Go Be More, right? And he has the Just One Challenge, which is what started us on our walking every single day, because we interviewed him on the Monday before the election, and we started walking on election day every single day, because the point of the Just One Challenge is that you just have to commit to getting up and putting on your workout clothes and stepping outside. If you then go back to bed immediately, that's okay, because you have to do that just one thing every day. And the just one thing is to get up and get out of bed and go outside in your workout clothes. And it turns out if you do that almost every single day, you end up actually doing some working out, because you're already out there anyway. Because the hard part is really getting started. And I think that's the brilliant part of the Just One thing, which you can incorporate Just One into your Kind Morning. It's really easy.
There's one last thing I want to say, Jeff, and then I'll let you end this. But the other thing I want to talk about these goals is that it's all well and good to create these goals for yourself. But if you have a family and that family will be affected by your goals, then you really need to share those goals with them before you write them in concrete and get going on them. And then I would also encourage you to have your family members also write down their goals. Do it as a family project. to see if your goals are all aligning with each other. Make sure you're all on the same page, and also so you can help each other achieve those goals. I'm going to do this with my kids. I've already given them fair warning. Get ready. You guys are writing your goals down. We're going to do a family mission statement. And if you want to learn more about doing a family mission statement, you can read the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. That's where I learned that little habit. But yeah, we're going to do it as a family. And I suggest you do the same, because that will also help you with reaching your goals. And also make sure that you have them prioritized properly.
Yeah, and so Michael Hyatt gets into this later in the book, of course, talking about the hard part of goals. Like, starting out is difficult, but once you start, you start to build momentum. But if your goal is sufficiently hard, you get to the middle part of the goal, where you're just sort of like floundering, and like that's when the internal motivation really matters, and that's when where prioritization of what you're doing really matters, is when you get to that middle part. And anyway, it's fascinating stuff. You can't be more right, by the way, about the importance of making sure that your goals are aligned with your family. I had this very discussion with my wife yesterday when I started talking about my goals. I said, one of the goals I want to do is this is because of Lee Abamonte, by the way. I decided I want to ramp up. I've spoken publicly many times about my 50-50-57 goal, which is 50 states, 50 countries before I turn 50. And then the 7 is the 7 continents. And I booked that trip to the Antarctica, my 7th continent, for 2022, January of 2022. And I want to ramp up. I'm not going to be 50 then, but I want to ramp it up. And I want to actually finish my 50-50-50 goal by January of 22 now. So like I'll be 43 instead of 50, right? I want to finish sufficiently ahead of schedule. And so I had to have this conversation with my wife that said, I want to go to 10 new countries in 2021 because I need to hit my goal, right? Now, the thing about that is, it doesn't sound bad, but it does impact my wife, right? If I'm gone and she's not, or if I'm saying, I'm going to drag you to 10 different countries, it has impact. So we have to be on the same page. If she didn't want me to do that, it wouldn't be a good goal for me, because I'd be meeting resistance. And the thing about goals is you need support from your family and your friends and from your Facebook group.
Not just that. Like, I know, for example, my husband has some goals for himself, and I want to make sure that my goals are aligning with those goals, so I'm not interfering with his personal goals either. Right. So that's a huge thing as well. And, my kids have, I might have goals for my kids. And one thing I'm really, really mindful of is I don't want to make my goals for them their goals if that's not something that's, in alignment with them. Now, they're children.
You get some control over what their goals need to be. You should be influencing them to make positive life choices, obviously, as a parent. You know that, but at the same time, I think it's more clear when you're talking about your husband. If, for example, if your husband's goal was to lose weight, I don't think he needs to, but like, let's say he did want to lose weight.
Doesn't need to.
Right.
Oh my goodness.
I don't think he does. I think he's fine the way he is. I'm good with it. I don't want to insinuate it. But like, if that's his goal and your goal is to get him to try every kind of pie in existence, right? Then that would not be aligned. And I would suggest that you need to decide, do you want him to lose weight or do you want him to try every kind of pie in existence?
Exactly. No. Well, everybody, we've
overstayed our welcome, but I will say this, Jillian, I do have an amazing joke to tell today, and I cannot end the show without telling my joke.
Okay, let's hear it.
Okay. So, what did the fish say when it hit a wall?
I don't know.
Damn.
Oh my God.
It's so good.
That is a good one. I'll give you that one. All right, everybody. I'm Jillian Sidoti. That is Jeffrey Hulse. And Jeff, what do you want to remind everybody to do?
To live the best version of their last life ever.
Till next time, everyone. Bye.